In James chapter 2, starting in verse 2, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." Those first five verses I have read a lot over my time as a Christian, and I've reflected on a lot, and it's just a beautiful statement, especially that last part. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But a lot of times I stop reading at verse 5 because what comes after verse 5 makes me kind of uncomfortable. Because in verse 6 it says, "But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all that they do." When I've read that part of the passage, I get a little nervous. I'm like, am I one of the ones that have faith, or am I one that's blown like the wind? And the part that really makes me nervous is, should I expect to receive anything from the Lord? Am I double-minded? And that phrase double-minded, it's kind of hard sometimes, because basically what James is talking about is two different types of wisdom. So people who actually have wisdom are those whose lives are centered on the Lord. And those who are double-minded and who are tossed around, their lives are centered on something that isn't the Lord. And so what he's saying is, if your mind is centered on God and you're asking God for wisdom because you know that that's what God wants for you and you put him at the center of your life, you can be confident that he's going to answer those prayers. He's going to make things clear for you. He's going to provide the path that you need to live and continue to live in righteousness. But this is what we find a lot of times instead of asking God how we can serve him, we ask God to serve us. And we have something else that's at the center of our life, whether that's we want to achieve a certain social status. We want to get a certain job. We want to make a certain amount of money. We want to be with a certain person. We want to be seen as a certain person by others. And we'll pray to God like, God, how can I get that thing? How can I make 6 figures? How can I marry that person? Whatever it is. And we're like, God, you take care of that for me. And God is like, I have no reason to answer that request because you're being selfish. And it's kind of like, I don't have kids. I didn't grow up with siblings. But if you have kids and they ask you something and they're clearly being selfish, so I experienced this with youth group, right? So I don't have kids, but I work with a lot of kids. And there's difference when a kid comes up to me and asks something for themselves and when they ask something for the group or because they understand what we're trying to achieve. And when you have someone that's just being selfish and they want what they want because they want it, why would I want to help that person? Because I'm not loving them by letting them be selfish, right? And God's the same way. He's like, I'm not serving you. I'm not loving you if I allow you to continue to live with something else at the center of your life besides me. So, and if he answers those prayers and he allows you to get the thing that you want, then he's going to reaffirm that behavior that, oh, God's just going to do what I ask him to do. There's a movie a number of years ago called Bruce Almighty. And Jim Carrey, he plays this guy named Bruce, and his life just isn't the way that he wants it to be. And he gets the opportunity to have the power of God for a period of time. And he quickly abuses that power. And one of the things that he is responsible for is answering people's prayers. And so he kind of has this like email system where everybody's prayers come in, and he realizes how much work it is to deal with everyone's prayers. And so he just hits auto reply all yes. And so every prayer that they ask for gets answered. And what happens is very, very quickly, the world spirals into chaos because people don't really know what they want. They're tossed around by the waves. They're double-minded. They think they want one thing, and then they start to get that thing and like, oh, I don't want that. I want to go this way. And then, oh, I don't want that. I want to go this way. And then they start to want things that are just not good for anybody, not good for themselves, not good for those in their lives. And the world just gets plummeted into chaos. And so really, as the movie ends, like Bruce realizes like being God ain't all that fun. Now, that's because Bruce is a man and he doesn't have the capacity to handle God's responsibilities. One of the beautiful things about God is he is infinite and he is able to handle all of our prayers, and he's able to filter through all of what is good and what is bad, and he's able to make fully educated and righteous and holy decisions. And so I pray that for all of us today and moving forward, that we would be able to remember that he has what's best in mind, and he knows what is good. And if we have faith in that, and we have faith that he will make the right decision and he will answer prayers the right way, then we can have confidence that God will guide us in the right direction, especially when we face trials. And one of the things that I also love about this verse is that it acknowledges that sometimes things are tough. Life is hard. But God wants to work through those tough times. And every trial that we face is an opportunity to put him at the center of our lives. And so as we move on, and whatever trials we face, whatever trials we are facing now, I pray that we would see them as opportunities to put God at the center of our life.